Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I recently picked up the e.l.f. Christian Siriano palette from e.l.f. I feel like I just said that. It is very pretty. It is jewel toned. It is like $12 and you can pick it up at Target. Now, I often see little palettes like this and I see like a whole bunch of looks and then maybe I'll come on here and I'll do one. But I just saw Emily Noel, I'll link her video down below. She used the Sephora Editorial Pro Palette to do 5 different looks out of the same palette as like a 1-week challenge. So today is day 5. I just filmed the 5th look. So this video is going to be 5 different looks, all utilizing these 7 shades, and that's it. So if that's something you're into, make sure to keep on watching. Please don't forget, I do upload twice a week. So the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting is to subscribe. And without further ado, let's get into all 5 mini tutorials for the eye looks you saw in the thumbnail. So starting off with the matte pink shade, I'm just setting down the entirety of the lid. And then taking the purpley pink shade, I'm just going to put that in the crease. Now, when filming these 5 different videos, I totally messed up and filmed some of them as voiceovers and some of them as regular tutorials. So I muted them all and they will all be voiceover. Then I'm just slowly building up the deep purple into the crease. Now, you want to go slowly when you use such a deep color, but I did find that of the shades in the palette, this was the least impressive. The pigmentation was a little uneven, and it did take a lot of finesse, and there was really no staying power on the lid. The second you blended it out, this color went away. Then going in with the shimmery shade, I am spraying it with Fix Plus because it did kind of need that to get any intensity, and I just built that up onto the lid. Now, this is kind of, my signature smoky eye, so it's kind of something you've seen about a million times from me, but first time I jump into a palette, this is typically the first thing I will do. Now, the whole purpose of this video was kind of to change things up a little bit more, so while, yes, this is definitely something you might have seen from me, this is the only look that seems pretty redundant. So once I finished with the shimmer shade, I did go back in with that deep purple just to build it up and continue to smoke that out a little bit. And you wanted to make sure that you have a very seamless blend where those two colors meet. Then for the lower lash line, I am immediately going in with that deep color. Once I had played with it, I realized that it really blended away pretty much all the way if you wanted it to. So there's nothing all that impressive about it going in. Then I just blended over it with the pink shade just to add a little more intensity. And then highlighted the inner corner. And that's look 1. For look number 2, I once again set down the lid. And then I took my basket case liner from Kat Von D, and I took that all the way in the waterline. I'm going to use this on the lid as well later. And then buffing that same deep purple shade over the entire waterline. I'm just going to then go and smoke that out. And I did smoke that out using a clean brush to start. And then I added a little bit of that pinky shade just to give a little bit more definition and gradient to the lower lash line. And finally, I built up that intensity one more time before going back to the lid. So I started by taking the Kat Von D basket case liner again, this time on a brush, and I started laying that down where I wanted it, and I wanted it to be more soft, but it wasn't building up the same way I like it to, so I did go in directly from the tube, which is not something I typically do using a brush. I typically like it with the tube, but I wanted to try something different to see if I can get a little more of a soft application, and I wasn't really feeling it. So then, on that same buffing brush, I started taking that deep purple and building up that color entirely. I was getting a lot of fallout, so I did throw on some baking powder just so that any of my fallout would get caught underneath. And then just blending away the lines with a clean brush and then a little bit more of that pink. And that's just going to help to build up that warmth in the crease because everything else is going to be so cool toned. And then, like I said, that purple does blend away very, very easily, so I did continue to build it up. Then, going in with some of that green, I took it on a dry brush, and I wasn't getting the color payoff, but the second I wet it with some Fix Plus, you can see right there, it got bold and metallic and very like serpentine, so I'm loving that color. It is probably the standout shade in the palette. Like, I wish I had this palette for St. Patrick's Day because it is the perfect foiled green for any like foiled green look. And as always, once I finish going over all of that, I do highlight the inner corner and that is look number 2. I apologize because look number 3, I totally screwed up and my face was out of frame for the first half of the look. So this is what I could salvage. I started by going into the crease with that purpley pink shade and then using the halo method. I'll link down below my halo tutorial because I do the exact same thing. I take the blacky purple shade on the inner and outer portion of the lid just to define where that halo is. And as you see, I just layered those same colors into the waterline. And then for the lid itself, again, building up and blending away slowly so you don't get any muddiness. Once you're happy with the layer you have on the inner and outer corner, I just added a little bit of one of the shimmery shades. This was the shadow shade. I wasn't loving how it looked dry, so I did wet my finger. And even then, it wasn't quite as intense as I wanted. So I went over it with the cheek shade of the palette, which is the highlighter shade, and that just kind of intensified everything. And then, as always, I blended out where those colors meet with a little bit more of that purple, just so that everything became nice and seamless. And once you finish blending that out, I took the highlighter shade of the palette again, and I just highlighted the inner corners, and that is look number 3. Look number 4, I actually got the entire thing in frame, so I started by building up that blue, and I wanted to use a cool shade in the crease because this was a little bit more of a cool-toned smoky eye, and I just slowly built up that blue, and once I figured I had it exactly where I wanted it, I blended it with a clean brush before slowly building it up a little bit more on the outer portion of the eye. Then, going in with the deep purple shade on the outer V, very similar to the technique I used in look number 1, but with very different colors. I built up the outer smoky portion for some definition in the crease, and again, just slowly built it up and layered it so that it got seamless without getting muddy. And once I'm happy with the blend on that, I took a little bit more of that blue and laid it into the lower lash line. Now I wanted to map out where this color was going to go, but I didn't want it to be a full-on blue look. I didn't actually do a fully blue look until day 5. Then wetting that green, which like I said is the standout shade in the palette for me, I took that over the entire inner portion of the lid, doing a very standard smoky eye, but normally for me, the blue would be a warm turned brown, the purple would be a deep brown, and the green would be a bronzy shimmer shade. But when you change it up and you do it a little bit differently, it's something that honestly looks completely new, even though this is a look I've probably put together a million times. Then taking a little bit more of that blue shade into the crease, I just diffuse it a little bit more, and then run that same green in the waterline. And this, I think, is what really took this look over the edge. I love when you have a matching foil to the lower waterline and the upper lid, and it just looked so good. So I took a little bit of that matte shade just to kind of blend everything together. And then with a little bit more of that purple, I just built up the intensity. And you'll see off camera, I did throw on lashes and finished up the look. And now for the final look, which is absolutely my favorite. I, again, filmed this as a talk-through tutorial, so ignore me talking in there. I started by setting down the entire lid with the matte pinky white shade, and then very, very elaborately built up blue all over the entire lid. Now, it did take a lot of work because this is a matte blue, and the pigmentation and payoff wasn't amazing. Compared to some of the other palettes I have, it definitely is not the best blue I've worked with, but with a little bit of patience and some finesse and a whole lot of Fix Plus, I was able to build up this blue to the desired intensity. And I did use that on a synthetic brush just to help kind of pack it into place. And again, it took a lot of finesse, but I did do that on both lids. And you'll notice I didn't wing it out at all. I kind of stuck pretty close to the shape of the eye because I knew I was going to go in with some other colors later, and I didn't want the blue to go too far. And at that point, I wasn't entirely sure what color I wanted the outer portion of the eye to be, so I didn't want to risk muddying it up. Once that is at the desired intensity, on a blending brush, I took a little bit of that deep purple just to define the crease. Now, I went in with the blue first, and then I blended it all out because I wanted to make sure that I had the intensity on the lid, and then it smoked out. So if I was to do it the opposite and do the purple first and then go in with the blue, it wouldn't smoke out and gradiate as much. It would be a little bit too bold on the lid, and I really wanted this to be soft and smoky given how intense it was going to be. Then taking the highlighter shade, I did just press that over the blue onto the lid just to add a certain iridescence to it, and I think it worked out really well. And then with a clean blending brush, I just took that away. On the lower lash line, I then took a little bit of that same blue shade before going into my waterline with a black liner. This one is by Makeup Geek. And then I set down that liner in the waterline with that same purple shade that I used in the crease up above. And by blending that in, it just gave that same dimension up top and on the bottom. And once that was smudged out on that dense brush from before, I did take some more of that blue just to kind of connect where the top and bottom meet around the wing. And I highlighted the inner corner. I hope you enjoyed all 5 of those. This is definitely my favorite look so far. I don't normally do blues. I don't normally do wings. And when I do lashes, I usually do like flary, wispy lashes that are asymmetrical. I don't normally do symmetrical lashes like this. So across the board, it's something I don't normally do, and I am loving it. And honestly, that's like the whole point of this video, is to break out of my comfort zone and kind of force myself to not do my same normal, neutral, smoky look with some color in the lower lash line. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Bye.